The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe. And I am beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this may be incapable of morality. From Gaza to Little Village to Altgeld and all over the country, the children are all ours, every single one of them, and it is our duty to fight for them.
It's wild how often those words and words like that come out of the mouths of these dirty commie scum. The children are ours. The children belong to us. Every child belongs to us. It's something they routinely talk about. And if you're not paying attention, if you don't understand what they're saying, you don't realize what they're actually saying. Joining me now, my friend Adam Coleman wrote a wonderful book, The Children We Left Behind. I would highly recommend you pick up that book. It's about Western society, Western culture, and how we've really left the kids. We've justified people just leaving the kids. Adam, I hear it all the time from the leftists, all the time. There are children. They belong to all of us. Can you explain why they talk like this so often?
I think, well, for one, some of them are just virtue signaling. Many of them don't actually know what it's like to be a parent. Often you'll see the childless woman who's standing up there, and it's not to say that she doesn't have some sort of empathy or doesn't care about children, but I think it's misplaced. And it's something that a lot of people don't bring up. People who speak like that often come from tumultuous childhood homes. So whereas when they were a kid, they wish that others would come and rescue them, then they grow up to want to rescue other people. A lot of people do that with animals as well. They turn their life into rescuing something just because they wish they were rescued when they were younger. So the whole "we must be responsible for all children" sometimes is a plea for help from when they were kids themselves. But unfortunately, ideology takes form and brings it into a more malicious arena.
Let's talk about the nuclear family, because this is something that communists have been after since the start of communism. And the Soviet Union was infamous for this, breaking up, infiltrating the nuclear family. The Stasi they'd plant pornography in a husband's mailbox so the wife would find it. In modern day times, Black Lives Matter had it on their website that they wanted to break up the nuclear family. They're quite honest about it. Why?
Because there's strength within the nuclear family. Family separation, for one, I think someone who wants to purposefully break up families is demonic. That's a different direction. But I would say that there's strength within a family. There are so many things that are beneficial for children coming from both sides, the mother and the father. There's a balance between them. Men have a different approach than women when it comes to raising children. And then when we're seeing in the West is that more and more men are either choosing to step away from their children or being forced away from their children, whether it be through the court system or through a confrontational mother. And then what ends up happening is the children pay the cost of it. The children are the ones who are lost. They're the ones who are being left behind. They're the ones who are being taken advantage of. So for many of these kids that they claim to want to claim as theirs, and many of these leftist kids who gravitate towards this leftist ideology that makes the community's responsibility to take care of them because their parents failed to do so, then they get wrapped up in this because they don't have any sort of protection from it. Meanwhile, for like someone like my son, when, especially during 2020, when all this stuff popped off, he could turn to me and ask me, just like your kids can turn to you and ask you, and you keep them from dangerous and illogical ideologies that are manipulative.
Adam, I understand a bit about your background, so obviously this is something that maybe you will understand better than I will, but can you help me understand the mentality of a father walking away from his children? Because I fully admit that I'm a terrible person. I would never claim to be a moral person, but gosh, I love being a dad. It's just like the greatest thing in the world. It's not coming to work. It's not, eating a great meal. And I love all those things, right? When I walk in the door and my two meathead sons come running to talk to me and tell me about their day, there's nothing better in the world. I don't understand how someone wouldn't like it. It's like not liking ice cream. Can you explain it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a little bit complicated. I think there are multiple
Yeah.
situations as to why it happens. One of them is, well, when they were kids, their father stepped away, so it's just repeating familiar behavior. The other part of it is, for some reason, they didn't bond with their children when they were first born, which is incredibly important to do so. For mothers, they have a natural bonding because the child is growing within them. But for men, they have to. That's why you see like skin to skin contact for newborns. Like they have to have that in the very beginning. They have to be close to them. That's the bonding phase, and that's the part that really solidifies your relationship with your child. You get to feed them. They become reliant on you. It's a completely different perspective. Um, and for some men, they're not choosing to walk away. They're forced to. They're kind of pushed away. Although I will always be harder on the parents and say you should keep fighting for your kids, no matter what the hurdles are in front of you. Um, so I think it's multifaceted. I think when it comes to my father, who wasn't involved in our lives, I just don't think he was interested in fighting for us. I don't think he was interested in being much of a parent. And yeah, it's hard to really speak for him because I never really got a chance to ask him why he made the decisions that he made.
You used to be a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. You are not anymore. Can you explain why?
Yeah, I would say when I was a Democrat, I was more of a moderate. I was never a leftist. I moved away from the Democratic Party when I realized the source of information that I was receiving was heavily biased. And my understanding of the right leaning position was through a left wing filter. So, I'm an analytical person. If I'm taking in bad or misleading information, the output's going to be bad and misleading as well. It was when I broke away from the mainstream media and started taking in a variety of viewpoints, whether it be more progressive viewpoints, conservative viewpoints, libertarian viewpoints. I wanted to understand everything and kind of come to my own conclusion. So I'm rather somewhere in the middle, depending on what the issue is. The only real position that I've completely changed was I was pro-choice, and I'm radically pro-life.
Nothing wrong with that. Why is the Democrat Party, why are they bottoming out right now? And I know it won't last forever. We talk about that all the time, but right now, approval rating in the low 30%. It's not just me. I'm a hyper partisan. I'm always gonna dislike Democrats. But the normal American has completely rejected the Democrat Party. Why?
They're not relatable. They're not cool. They're not relatable in a sense that the Democrats started catering to the upper class. And so everything that they say sounds like in the interest of the upper class, sounds like they're speaking to a niche audience. And there's a lot of denialism. For the person who lives in the gated community and can, live in this particular bubble, everything is fine. But for everybody else, they're living check to check and have minimal savings. Life is difficult. And so when they have real problems, and then you have the upper class elitist mainstream media going out to them and asking them, well, what are the issues that are facing for you? And why are you supporting Trump? They still turn around and call them racist because that's the thing that they say in their bubble. Right? So they've completely abandoned the working class. They've completely abandoned the average American who is, trying to strive for a better life. They've turned to illegal immigrants who are doing the jobs that many Americans would actually like to do, even though they perpetuate the lie that Americans don't want to do certain jobs so they can keep near slave wages, so they can keep the system going where they can, they can use our tax dollars to take care of their health care and so on and so forth. I live in New Jersey. Down the road, there's a warehouse filled with illegal immigrants, multiple warehouses filled with legal immigrants. It's an entire system. And so when people like myself are saying, hey, these problems are real, we see it every single day, do something about it, they say, it's not a problem, everything is fine, vote for Kamala. That just doesn't work.
Yeah, I used to say during Biden's presidency that the one word I would use to describe them was cold. They would tell you, you know, stop whining about inflation is essentially what they would say. Inflation's better. It's fine. What are you complaining about? The economy's better. You just don't realize it yet. You're too dumb to realize it. It seems to have infected their entire party. They just don't care. We're always lectured.
Yes, and this is we saw this during COVID, the falling in love with the academic, the falling in love with the expert, right? The expert can't be wrong, even though the expert keeps changing his mind every other week about what the conclusion is, right? It's this idea that the opinion of the average American doesn't matter. And that's the part that's disheartening. And that's the reason why a lot of people went in the direction of Donald Trump. And don't get me wrong, Donald Trump is a billionaire, but at least he's real, right? No one's ever said that Donald Trump is fake. We all believe he's real. And he actually echoes many of the things that we're saying. Whether he does it or not is a different story because politicians are politicians. But he's at least hearing us. And you can't say that from much of the Democratic Party, especially on the national level.
Yeah, it's true. Adam, my brother, thank you. Best of luck on your book. I'm sure it'll sell well. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.